The Joe Rogan Experience.
With these systems that are in place and all of the various things that have gotten us to 2019 as a human species, when you study anxiety and you study fear and all these different things, are we experiencing high levels of it because there's not as much real physical danger as our ancestors experienced, and it's almost like we're looking for it when it's not necessarily there, like we're programmed to be able to deal with it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way, but I think that's a good way to think about it. I mean, the philosopher Kierkegaard said that anxiety is the price we pay for the human ability to choose. And this is where our autonoetic consciousness comes in, our ability to think of ourselves as having a past and a future and to be able to plan and choose in the future. He said it started with Adam making the first choice as a human in the Garden of Eden, and that was where it all began. And our ability, you can rephrase that statement by saying our ability to choose is what allows us to be anxious, because that is what anxiety is, a worry about are we going to make the right decision? How can we deal with this thing that's coming up? It's a worry about the future.
Yeah, and the ability to think about the possibilities,
right.
Like what could go wrong, what could go right, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And then to contemplate all those various choices.
Right.
Anxiety.
Yeah. So like, you're walking through the woods as a snake, you might freeze, but almost instantly that fear that is generated by you freezing and seeing the snake morphs into anxiety. Will the snake bite me? If it bites me, will I get to a doctor? Will he have the antidote? If I die, what will happen to my family? That's worry, that's anxiety. So they're kind of separate. Fear is about a danger that's present. Anxiety is about one that hasn't happened yet. But almost always, as soon as you're afraid, that makes you anxious about what's going to happen. And
then there's general existential angst. The life itself, the existence is what is this? What?
Yeah, and all of that is due to our prefrontal cortex, our ability to conceptualize, to imagine things that have never been imagined before, to create art, to create architecture, build buildings, imagine going to the moon, designing an instrument to do that and actually pulling it off and making sure it can get back. All of that is something that our special kind of consciousness enables. But it has a dark side, which is it also allows us to be incredibly selfish and self-centered and narcissistic, and to support tribes and groups, and unless I think that the world survives best when it's either completely isolated, all the cultures are isolated, or if we could also somehow be together in a more unified way. Because the direction we're going now, where each country is isolating itself but is still so entangled with all the others, is a recipe for disaster.
Is this because we evolved essentially without long-term travel? I mean, we kind of evolved to stay in whatever area the resources were in when we were hunters and gatherers. Mm-hmm. And then somewhere along the line, somebody figured out boats and how to get on a horse, and the next thing you know, you're visiting people.
I think it's more about, we have a special kind of inquisitiveness that because we can mentally model the next step and plan what are the options, try to anticipate the problems that are going to come up and take those steps. And that's a pretty special thing. But it also allows us to plan in a kind of devious way where, me or my group is going to benefit, and if mine benefits, I don't want the other one to benefit because we got to keep everything separate. Mm. So it's, consciousness, our kind of consciousness is our greatest achievement, but also probably our worst aspect.
Oof. But it's, But it's what makes us human.
It is.
Imagining humans with no consciousness is impossible.
No, there's no way to go in that direction.
So is the key to this thing as the human race, is it managing our consciousness? Perhaps maybe work like yours, giving us the tools to understand what are the mechanisms involved, that maybe that can help us sort of navigate our biological traps and
maybe.